It was just after sunrise when Emma found herself wandering the quiet streets of her neighborhood, the chill of the morning air clinging to her coat. She had a habit of taking early walks, partly to think, partly to escape the chaos of her own mind. But that morning, something felt different. Her heart felt heavier, like it was carrying a secret it could no longer keep. She paused near the park bench by the old oak tree, staring at the empty swings swaying gently in the breeze. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a small piece of paper and a pen, unsure if she had the courage to do what she was about to do. Emma had always been a believer in kindness, in the little ways a person could touch another's life without even realizing it, and today, she was about to take that belief to its ultimate test. With a deep breath, she scribbled a few lines on the paper, a message that could change someone's day, maybe even their life, but she didn't know whose. Her thoughts were interrupted by the soft sound of footsteps approaching. A man, probably in his late 20s, was jogging past the park, earbuds in, lost in his own world. Emma's fingers hesitated over the note. Should she leave it here, on the bench, for a complete stranger? The idea seemed both reckless and thrilling. After a long pause, she tucked the note under a rock near the bench, hoping it would be discovered by someone who truly needed it. She whispered a quiet wish into the crisp morning air. Please let this reach the right person. Then, without looking back, she turned and walked away, the heaviness in her chest giving way to a strange mix of hope and fear. Meanwhile, across town, James, a young man with tired eyes and a soul burdened by loss, was rushing to work, completely unaware of the surprise waiting for him. He had spent the last few weeks struggling to find motivation, each day blending into the next in a haze of stress and sadness. His heart ached from a recent heartbreak and the endless pressure at his job, and he felt invisible in a world that moved too fast to notice him. Hours later, as fate would have it, James found himself taking an unfamiliar route home. The park appeared unexpectedly, bathed in the golden glow of late afternoon sun. He slowed down, his tired legs carrying him closer to the swings, the trees, and the bench that seemed almost ordinary, yet something made him pause. There, tucked under a small rock, was a piece of paper. Curiosity overcame him, and he picked it up. The note was simple, a few lines, written with careful thought, yet carrying a depth that made James' eyes widen. It spoke of hope, of kindness, and the belief that even strangers could change someone's world with a single gesture. The words resonated in a way he hadn't expected, stirring something in him that had long been dormant, a sense that he wasn't completely alone, that someone out there cared enough to reach out, even anonymously. As he read the note again and again, James felt a warmth he hadn't felt in months. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes, and for the first time in a long while, he smiled, a fragile, hesitant smile, but a smile nonetheless. Little did he know, the note had been meant for no one in particular, yet it had found him exactly when he needed it most. It was a small miracle wrapped in paper, a connection between two strangers that neither of them could have predicted. If you're already moved by this story and want to see how Emma's small act of kindness changes James' life forever, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live for more heartwarming stories just like this. You won't want to miss what happens next. James held the note in his hands, staring at it as if it contained a secret code meant only for him. The words were simple, yet they struck something deep inside, an ember of hope that he hadn't felt in months. His apartment felt heavier than usual, walls closing in with the weight of bills, heartbreak, and exhaustion, but the note was like a tiny window opening to sunlight. He read it over and over, memorizing the lines, letting the words sink into his soul. The thought that a stranger had taken the time to write something so kind, so genuine, overwhelmed him. Meanwhile, Emma was back at her small apartment, trying to distract herself with mundane chores, but her mind kept wandering to the park and the note she had left. She wondered if anyone would ever see it, if her words would make a difference, or if it was just a quiet act that vanished without consequence. She sighed, sitting by her window and staring at the city skyline. Something about leaving that note had stirred a feeling she hadn't recognized in a long time, a mix of vulnerability and excitement. It was like releasing a part of her soul into the world and hoping it landed softly. Back at the park, James folded the note carefully and slipped it into his jacket pocket. He didn't know why, but he felt compelled to follow a sudden impulse. He needed to do something kind for someone else, to pay forward the hope that had been handed to him so unexpectedly. His heart pounded as he walked past the swings, the words from the note echoing in his mind. Even the smallest act of kindness can change a life. Hours later, James found himself standing in line at a small coffee shop. The barista was tired, moving mechanically, while the customers were absorbed in their phones and conversations. He remembered the note and its message of connection, and without overthinking it, he bought coffee for the elderly woman in front of him, a stranger who looked lonely and weary. The woman's eyes lit up with surprise, and for a moment, James felt a warmth spreading through him, a sense that his small gesture mattered. It was a fleeting moment of magic, yet it felt profound, like a ripple that could grow into a wave. At the same time, Emma's day was filled with its own quiet moments of reflection. She noticed small changes in her behavior. She smiled more at strangers, held doors open, and lingered a little longer when speaking to the cashier at the grocery store. The act of leaving that note had awakened something in her, too, a subtle shift in perspective. She realized that kindness wasn't about grand gestures or recognition, it was about creating connections, however small, and trusting that they mattered. That evening, the city lights flickered on as James walked home, replaying the events of the day. The world still felt heavy, but now it also felt full of possibilities. He didn't know who had written the note or why, yet he felt an inexplicable connection to its author, as if an invisible thread had tied them together. He looked up at the sky, thinking of the stranger who had reached out with words, and made a quiet vow to continue the chain of kindness. Little did he know, Emma was experiencing a similar feeling, a subtle reassurance that her actions, however small, could touch lives in ways she could never predict. And while their paths had not yet crossed, an invisible bond had already begun to form, linking their lives in a story of hope, change, and the extraordinary power of a simple note. The following morning, Emma returned to the park. The sunlight filtered through the trees in soft beams, casting long shadows across the familiar path. She had been thinking about the note constantly, wondering if anyone had found it, and if it had made a difference. Her heart fluttered with a strange mix of hope and anxiety, as if part of her feared that her act of kindness might have gone unnoticed. She walked slowly, her eyes scanning the benches, the grass bare, and even the rocks where she had tucked the paper. Meanwhile, James woke early, a sense of anticipation in his chest. The note had ignited a spark in him that he couldn't ignore. He felt drawn to return to the park, almost like he was being guided by an invisible hand. He had to know, somehow, why this simple act, leaving a note, had stirred something so profound inside him. He dressed quickly and stepped out into the crisp morning air, carrying a small coffee cup he had purchased along the way. It wasn't for himself. It was for someone else, though he didn't yet know who. As fate would have it, their paths converged near the old oak tree, the very place where Emma had left the note the day before. Emma had paused mid-step, lost in thought, when she noticed a young man approaching the bench, holding something in his hands. There was a cautious curiosity in his eyes, a gentleness in his movements that caught her attention. For a brief moment, they regarded each other silently, each sensing that something significant was about to happen. James placed the coffee on the bench, glancing around as if looking for the right person. "Excuse me," he said softly, his voice hesitant but warm. "Did you happen to leave a note here yesterday?" Emma's eyes widened slightly, a mix of surprise and recognition washing over her. She nodded slowly, feeling a strange connection to this stranger she had never met. "Yes, I did," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "Did someone find it?" James smiled, holding up the note she had written. "I did," he said simply. "It really changed something inside me. I can't explain it, but reading it, it made me feel like I mattered, like someone cared. I don't even know who you are, but somehow, your words reached me." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she listened, a lump forming in her throat. The realization that her small gesture had such an impact overwhelmed her in the most beautiful way. For a few moments, they both sat in silence, letting the weight of the moment settle around them. The park seemed quieter somehow, the rustle of leaves and distant chirping of birds forming a perfect backdrop for this unexpected meeting. Emma finally spoke, her voice soft but steady. "I didn't know if anyone would ever read it, or if it would matter at all. I just wanted to offer some hope, I guess. I never imagined it would reach someone like you." James reached out, gently placing his hand near hers on the bench. "It did more than reach me," he said quietly. "It reminded me that even when life feels overwhelming, there's still kindness in the world, and sometimes, the smallest gestures can change everything." Emma smiled through her tears, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. In that instant, two strangers once completely separate lives were now intertwined by a shared moment of vulnerability and hope. Asterisk as they began talking, sharing pieces of their stories, they realized how much they had in common, a longing for connection, a desire to do good in the world, and a willingness to believe in the unexpected. Their laughter echoed softly through the park, blending with the rustling leaves, and for the first time in a long while, both felt truly seen. This moment was more than coincidence. It was a gentle reminder that life has a way of bringing the right people together at the right time. Emma and James had no idea what the future held, but they knew one thing for certain: a single act of kindness had created a bond. Neither could ignore. After their initial meeting in the park, Emma and James began spending more time together, each encounter feeling like a natural extension of the bond sparked by the note. They would meet at the park benches, walk along tree-lined streets, and talk about everything from trivial daily events to the deeper struggles of their lives. Each conversation revealed shared experiences, mutual understanding, and a comforting sense that neither was alone in the world. The simple act of leaving a note had blossomed into a friendship neither of them expected, yet both cherished. James found himself opening up to Emma in ways he had never shared with anyone before. He told her about the heartbreak that had left him feeling invisible, about the nights spent staring at the ceiling wondering if life would ever feel light again. Emma listened patiently, her presence calming, her words gentle but full of encouragement. "You matter," she would say softly, "even when it doesn't feel like it, even when the world seems too heavy, you matter, and your kindness matters too." Emma, in turn, shared her own struggles, her feelings of isolation, her doubts about whether her small acts of kindness could truly make a difference. James would smile and reassure her, "Look at me. You reached me. That's proof your kindness has power. You don't need to see the ripple, it's happening whether you notice it or not." These exchanges, full of honesty and care, deepened their connection and strengthened their trust. One afternoon, as the golden sunlight filtered through the leaves, James invited Emma to a small cafe near the park. He seemed nervous, fiddling with the edge of his sleeve, yet there was an excitement in his eyes that Emma couldn't ignore. "I wanted to show you something," he said quietly, sliding a small envelope across the table. Emma looked at it curiously, her fingers trembling as she opened it. Inside was a photograph, a candid shot of the park bench where she had left the note, taken hours before he had discovered it. Alongside it was a short letter. "Your words started something beautiful. Thank you for reminding me that hope exists." Emma's eyes welled up with tears as she realized the depth of what had happened. A simple note she had written on a whim had not only touched James' life but had inspired him to document the moment, to remember it, to carry it forward. It was as though her small gesture had created a tangible mark on the world, a visible reminder that kindness is never wasted. She felt a warmth spreading through her chest, a mixture of pride, joy, and profound gratitude. Over the next few days, James and Emma continued their growing friendship, supporting one another through daily challenges, celebrating small victories, and finding solace in each other's presence. They discovered that the note had been just the beginning, a catalyst for something far greater than either had imagined. Each act of kindness they exchanged, each shared smile or word of encouragement, was a reminder that even the smallest gestures could ignite profound change. Then, one evening, as they walked through the park hand in hand, James stopped near the old oak tree. He turned to Emma, his eyes reflecting both vulnerability and hope. "I want you to know," he said softly, "that your note didn't just help me feel better, it changed the way I see the world, and it changed the way I want to live my life. I want to carry this forward, to be the kind of person who spreads hope the way you did." Emma smiled, feeling a rush of emotion she could barely contain. In that moment, words seemed unnecessary. The connection they shared was powerful enough to speak for itself. The park, once quiet and ordinary, now felt alive with possibility. It was a place where two strangers had discovered the extraordinary power of kindness, a reminder that life could be changed in the blink of an eye by something as simple as a heartfelt note. The small gestures, the moments of courage, the willingness to reach out, it all mattered, more than either of them could have imagined. The days following James' heartfelt confession by the old oak tree were filled with a quiet, joyful rhythm. Emma and James continued to meet in the park, share stories, and discover new layers of connection they hadn't known existed. The note that had started it all now felt like a similar, tangible reminder that one small act of courage could ignite profound change, yet neither of them realized just how far its impact would reach. One chilly morning, Emma arrived at the park earlier than usual. She carried a notebook in her hands, filled with her thoughts and little reflections on kindness, hope, and the human connections that make life meaningful. James was already there, standing near the bench where it all began, looking slightly nervous but smiling warmly as he waved her over. "Good morning," he said, his voice tinged with excitement. "I have something to show you." Curious. Emma followed him to a small table he had set up nearby, where a laptop and a camera rested. James explained that he had started a project inspired by her note, a community initiative encouraging people to write their own notes of kindness for strangers. "I realized," he said, "that your words didn't just change my life, they made me want to help others feel seen, to pass on hope the way you did. I can't do it alone, but together, maybe we can start something bigger than ourselves." Emma felt a lump in her throat, tears threatening to spill. She had never imagined that a simple note could lead to something so meaningful, something that could touch the lives of countless people. Her heart swelled with pride, not for herself, but for the life-affirming chain of kindness that had been set in motion. She realized in that moment that hope is contagious, and even the smallest gesture can create ripples far beyond what we can imagine. As the project began to take shape, they invited people from all walks of life to participate. Children wrote colorful messages of encouragement, adults left thoughtful notes for strangers, and soon, the park became a hub of human connection. Stories poured in of lives touched by anonymous words of kindness. Someone struggling with grief found comfort. A lonely elderly man received a note that made his day. A student overwhelmed with exams discovered hope in the words of a stranger. Each story mirrored the journey of Emma and James, proof that a single act could multiply into a wave of compassion and love. One afternoon, as Emma and James watched the park bustle with people leaving and finding notes, a man approached them, holding a crumpled piece of paper. His hands shook slightly as he explained that he had found the first note, the one Emma had left under the rock. It saved me," he said quietly. "I was at a low point, and reading those words reminded me that someone out there cares. I don't know who you are, but thank you truly." Emma and James exchanged a glance, a mix of awe and disbelief filling their hearts. The simple note had not only changed James' life, but it had now reached someone else, carrying forward the light they had sparked together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting warm hues across the park, Emma and James stood hand in hand, watching the ripples of kindness spread further than either could have imagined. Their lives had been transformed not just because of the note, but because they had chosen to believe in the power of hope, in the possibility that a small act of kindness can change everything. That night, as they walked home under the twinkling city lights, Emma smiled at James. "Who would have thought," she said softly, "that one small note could lead to all this?" James squeezed her hand gently, a quiet gratitude in his eyes. "It wasn't just the note," he said. "It was you, your courage, your kindness. It started a chain reaction, and together we're seeing just how powerful it can be." This story is a beautiful reminder that our smallest gestures can leave the largest impact. If Emma had kept her note to herself, if James had walked past it without noticing, the lives they touched, each story, each smile, each heart lifted might never have existed. But they chose kindness, and that choice changed everything. If this heartwarming journey has inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Tales Live to witness more incredible stories of hope, courage, and the life-changing power of compassion. Remember, your small acts of kindness could change someone's life, maybe even forever.